Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's not pretty. So, I have not been on this channel for a while. The truth is, I have not felt like it. Kind of lost my lust for life, I suppose, because my mom passed away this March. And I've been aware of what's kind of happening in the world, but it just was not central to my life. It just wasn't getting to me as much, right? I had a much more cataclysmic thing to take care of than YouTube. Anyway, it feels like I'm starting to get interested in stuff again because we were laughing at Dan Corder when he was talking about the 49 Afrikaners that left, right, for the United States. Now, I personally, as I said, was not that interested, partly because of what's happening in my life, but also because the story's been going on since 2018. I don't know why it's a surprise to anybody that Elon Musk is a poople from Pretoria. I don't know why people are feeling all kinds of uncomfortable. Why would you want that caliber of person to stay in our country? Do you get what I'm saying? I love Afrikaners. I love Boere. I'm not talking about all of them. I don't like it when that whole race is held to like one standard or one stereotype. So I just wanted to say that right out the gate. Right? I'm talking about a specific kind that would commit treason, that would betray our country, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Scotty, you've been feeling a whole lot more annoyed than me. Now, this time, please talk into the camera. By the way, my husband, like me, is a good person. Also, like me, not always a very nice person. We don't see niceness and goodness as the same thing. But I need to warn you, my husband is very honest and he's a better person than me and also a meaner one. So if you can handle it,
All right, now I've been seeing this coming, okay? Because I was actually recently in the States at the time of Donald Trump's inauguration and election winning, I suppose you could say that, even though that's all a very whatever. That's a rabbit hole I'm not getting into right now. But ever since he's been deporting all these Hispanics, yes.
Okay, sorry, since eject. I just wanted to say congratulations to you. My husband and I, up until now, we've been married for 4 years and we spent half of our marriage apart because neither of us had papers to stay in each other's country for too long, right? And so you worked for a long time to be able to afford an agent to help you get your South African residency, and I just wanted to say congratulations. And so now he gets to stay here for a while until we get more sorted out. So I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you. But that's why he was in the States. He constantly has to leave, to keep things legal. Yeah.
Thank you. But as I was saying, I was in the States when Trump actually became president again. He got sworn in, inaugurated, and all that. And he started with the deportations of all these Hispanic folks. I noticed he wasn't going after any other immigrants. My grandfather was an immigrant from Italy. And I do believe my grandmother was an immigrant from Switzerland. Now, I noticed he ain't going after my lot, people who look like me and sound like me. He's just going after all the brown-skinned ones with Spanish names. So, if you look like my wife here and your name is Hernandez in America, you're probably going to get deported. Okay? So, then he started having Elon Musk whisper in his ear. All of a sudden, this white genocide myth starts popping back up again. And people start talking about that again. Even though it has been pretty much proven it's BS. Not pretty much. It is a known fact. That is bullshit. Okay? So now, he done brought in all these Afrikaners. And I've been saying from the start, ever since Elon Musk was in Donald Trump's ear and telling him, oh, you should let me do this, you should let me do that. They are trying to get rid of all the Mexicans and all the Hispanics who are doing all the jobs that us Americans, let's face facts, we don't want to do them, because they are crap pay. So he wants to replace the brown faces with some white faces. And I've been saying it from the very beginning that us white Americans, racist or not, are going to get annoyed with these people because they are used to such a quality of life here. They don't have to lift a finger to do anything. These people have maids, they have gardeners, they hire somebody to do everything for them. These people have grown up getting their asses wiped, literally, by the very people they hate. Okay? So,
did I say a word? I didn't say a word. I'm innocent. I'm innocent here. This is all your observation, right? Since you've come to South Africa. Okay, and you, when you were in the States, you'd work 2 jobs just to come back here all the time.
Honey, even your poor people are spoiled here. Okay? In South Africa, even your poor people are spoiled.
Can you elaborate?
Again, let's see here. Can we just start off with the fact that it doesn't seem to matter what class group you're in? The kids here don't seem to get a job until they're out of school.
But that is an unemployment problem.
I get that, but still, they don't even start looking.
Okay.
I've been working since I was 13. That was under the table and very illegal when I started working, but that's besides the point. Okay? And also, can I just add that one paycheck is actually enough for one person. For the most part.
Well, the average paycheck in South Africa tends to support 6 people.
My point exactly.
Okay, so as I said, my husband is someone that is going to hurt your feelings whether or not you agree with him. What did I want to say? You don't realize until you've left South Africa. I grew up with a lot of narratives about how crap our country is. And I would say those same things and echo those same things. And I left. And every time I've left, I've ended up back. I have been one of those, I'm leaving South Africa. But there are just certain things. Should I tell them about the crying? I don't want to tell them about the crying.
I will. My dear wife here has informed me on multiple occasions that she hated the fact that she had to pump her own gas into the car. Oh, man. She told me she cried.
It was winter. It was winter in Ohio, and I wanted to do my makeup, and then I realized, snap, I've got to pour my own petrol. So I didn't tell anybody until you, but I cried, and then I realized that I'm a spoiled Joe Burger. Please forgive me.
And how many times do people have to tell me to just leave the shopping cart? Somebody will be around to pick it up. See, here in America, you have that option, but for the most part, where I'm from, if you leave a shopping cart in the middle of a parking space, you're just a piece of shit. So don't do that, okay? Especially because I'm from Florida and the weather there is very unpredictable and it's actively trying to kill you at any given moment. Whether it's because if it ain't raining, it's so hot that you might as well just take a hot shower, don't dry off, and put your clothes on. Okay, that's on a nice day. Okay, and then you got the hurricanes that are trying to drown you.
Okay, so it is 2:00 in the morning on a Monday. I'm supposed to go to work. I should not be on YouTube with my curlers. Don't tell my mom. Oh.
They kind of can't, honey.
Okay. Either way. I saw a video, clicked on it, and I said, we're going to watch it anyway. Why don't we make a reaction video and maybe I'll upload it. We'll see. Okay? So, a reaction video to Americans rejecting the Afrikaners. I have mixed feelings. I'm not necessarily all about Schadenfreude. Again, this is not an indictment on all Afrikaners. I do get defensive around the world's narratives around them because I only ever see the English-speaking world speaking about the negative they've done. Okay? Yeah. And the reason I have a chip on my shoulder about that is because it is the English that invented concentration camps in South Africa for Afrikaners. And so I do get very defensive about that. You will be here in just a second. But that doesn't mean that I excuse poor behavior in certain individuals. I just want to make it clear, this is not an indictment on all Afrikaners. Their race and language does not mean that they don't belong here. They're in a very important parts of the South African family, and that is my position. But you want to say, Handsome?
I also just wanted to say as a disclaimer, I am not trying to pick on Afrikaners here. I actually love those people. They make me feel... Afrikaners and colored people here in South Africa make me feel the most at home. Because...
And Zulus, you're an honorary Zulu, they said.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did say that. But
tell the audience they might not hear me.
Well, my wife wanted me to reiterate to y'all that I am an honorary Zulu. The Zulu people love me. The Zulu people, they love me.
Yeah, they told you you're an honorary Zulu. That's what they said.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but like I said, the Afrikaners and the coloreds, y'all make me feel the most at home because y'all some rednecks. Let's be real. Y'all some rednecks. Anyway, enough.
And you're very defensive about your Zimbabwean friend, right? You love your Zimbabweans.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anybody picks on Philip, they got to deal with me. All right?
And Clony Pani.
Oh, anybody did. No. You do not mess with Clony Pani.
Okay.
Anyway, enough of me rambling. On with this video. Let's do it.
Okay, the little bit we saw looked nasty. I don't even know if
I was full of the I told you so's, wasn't I?
Yeah, you did tell me. You did.
Why do we have to take these people? Why are they our problem? They're Dutch. They should get sent back to the Netherlands where they belong. I don't want to have to learn how to speak Dutch just so I can order a taco. Look at what they did in South Africa. You know, these are bad hombres. The only job they know how to do is owning the farms that their great-grandparents stole.
This video is for the white Afrikaners who are coming to the United States. I think you've already landed here. And I know that some of the folks who met you at the airport told you, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Most of us aren't glad you're here, okay? We don't want you here. We never wanted you here. And furthermore, I noticed they're going to settle you in Idaho, Ohio, and North Carolina. I will tell you they're not our finest states. So they're a good fit for you. I understand that many of you are farmers, and I've seen a lot of people say, oh, that's great, we need more farmers. Sorry to say we don't. We actually need farm workers because we've deported most of them. So if you can, put your picking hat on and think about, picking produce, that's largely probably what you're going to be doing here because I hear you don't have a lot of skills. I would also say that you're not going to have to hold just one job, but probably 2 or 3 to make up for your quality of life that you had back in South Africa. There will be no servants working for $2 a day. There's none of that here. So you're the servant who's working for $2 a day. So enjoy that. You're gonna have to pay for your health care, and ordinarily, because you're a refugee who's being discriminated against, you would go on Medicaid. But guess what? The Republicans just cut Medicaid. So I don't think you're gonna have that option for health care.
For over a decade, Africa Health has been the leading event for healthcare
Wow.
professionals.
I don't even know what advert this is. I didn't even realize it's a just chizzy video. Comments, concerns.
I told you.
What do you say on the standard of living comment?
Well, you see here. The standard of living comment, I would say, is she kind of hit the nail on the head there, cause like I said, like that guy said, they own the farms. They don't do any of the work.
I don't know about not doing any of the work though.
Well, I haven't been to the farm to see them do anything. I've been to one farm. We picked out a sheep to slaughter.
Right, and that wasn't an Afrikaans-owned farm.
Yeah,
but no, I wouldn't necessarily say Afrikaners are the race that you say don't work yeah, that's not a fair statement. Okay. But can I just say one other thing? Can we not pick on Ohio? Okay. I lived in Ohio for many months, at least 8 months, and I was very happy there. Okay. I'm just saying.
Is there anything about Ohio?
She said they're being taken to Idaho, North Carolina, and Ohio. I haven't been to Idaho or North Carolina, but I love me some Ohio, okay?
Okay. Well, I thought she said another place, but I will say, for these specific Afrikaners, they'll fit right in Idaho.
Okay.
You know why?
No.
Because they're just as racist as they are.
I see, okay.
So maybe you'll do without. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I did notice that the Episcopalian Church had a program with the government where they would, they would resettle and help, refugees resettle. They find you all to be so onerous, they terminated the partnership with the government. And they said, yeah, we won't be resettling those folks. Other things that you need to know about. While we are 58% white here in the United States, that's not going to last much longer. Within the next couple of years, we're going to be the minority, which will be fun for you because that's what you're used to. Interestingly enough, we have a ton of Latinos. We're the second largest.
Actually, that's true. I think I've mentioned this to you before, that with the birth and death rate in the United States, just as it is right now, the train has sailed very soon, within just, I don't know exactly how many years. I think by 2040, they said it's going to be a majority, not white country, actually.
Well, I'm from Tampa, Florida, so I'm used to that anyway. By the way, I will just go on record by saying she mentions that there's a large number of Latinos. I do want to make the disclaimer. Just because you're from a Latin American country doesn't mean you're not white, okay? It will still probably be a very white country, just some of the white people will be speaking something other than English. And can I just also point out that most of the white folk in America ain't even of English descent, so this whole you need to speak English or leave stuff is just total BS, and it's a product of racism and colonization.
Okay, there are two things I want to add later. There's a song called I've Never Met a Nice South African. I do too. I love that song. And most South Africans actually do, so most people who think it insults South Africans, they don't get the context. And then there's another thing. The American lady who didn't want people braaiing. She was here in South Africa. And I don't think a lot of those people are willing, realize that that's what they're going to face in America too. But let's hear more.
Spanish-speaking country in the world. So for you, if you could stop speaking that dirty, guttural, whatever it is, German, French, Dutch thing that you speak, that Afrikaans.
That wasn't nice. That
was not nice. That was not nice. Okay, like, I just got done talking about the whole language thing, and that's just, okay, that right there, I will say, is just plain American ignorance right there, and arrogance, like, I'm sorry. Afrikaans isn't exactly a polished or pretty language, but it's not what she said. It is not like,
it's not dirty. First of all, it was created by my race, the colored people, brown people, so you're not just jabbing at white folk there. And as the youngest language in the world, coming from such a small part of the world, 3% of the world, it's really ugly when English speakers attack Afrikaans, the language. I don't think she meant that. And I get what her position is. So I'm choosing not to take it personally. But I'm just saying, please don't stoop that low. As English speakers, saying that about Afrikaans speakers, that's no different to me when Israelis talk shit about Palestinians or Germans talk shit about Jews. It's the same kind of thing. In fact, it's the original thing.
Yeah.
The demonizing of people who speak Afrikaans. Not cool.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, no, like that's honestly that's just an unnecessary low blow.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and it's downright bullying coming from the most powerful language in the world,
exactly.
to the youngest. That's not cool.
nobody wants to hear that shit. So you can speak English or you can speak Spanish, which is really the second language here. In terms of other things that you need to know about.
But one thing that it does highlight is a different level of nastiness they will experience when they land in the United States. South Africa can have its own flavor of nastiness, but the United States can too. It really can have a very vicious nastiness when it chooses to. And that's not an indictment on all Americans. Most Americans I've met, and I've traveled more of the country than most Americans have, are some of the kindest people in the world. Especially in Ohio and Wisconsin. I'm going to give it to Wisconsin. But, yeah, there is, when the nastiness comes out, it can be pretty vicious. People think it's all Disneyland and Hollywood, and baby, it's a real country. It's not just your fantasy of what America is. It's not just what you see on TV.
Definitely. I will say, like, yeah, no, we have a different breed of nasty. Because, frankly, I'm sorry, I say this as an American, we do have this culture around, we live in our own bubbles. You know, like, we stick our head in a bubble, and that's where it stays. And that, I think, is mainly my main issue with America. And people don't even realize it, and it's not really even their fault half the time. Because our media is just so pumped full of, oh, America's the greatest, America's the greatest, America's the greatest. I mean, come on. You watch the news in America, they don't mention anything positive in any other country unless it's the British royal family.
Okay. I think we've offended enough people so far in this video. Let's carry on.
We haven't.
The black people in this country, they don't get fucked with, okay? I know that there's a long legacy of colonialism and all kinds of stuff happening in your country, but our black folks have sort of been through the fire, if you will, and they're not going to be fucked with. So you're the minority here. Enjoy. I really hope you like your time here. I'm going to bet my ass that you're going to be booking it back to SA probably within the next 12 months. Have a great day.
So y'all want me to...
Just so we're clear, if you're implying that our black people lie on their backs or that they haven't been through fire, again, a misconception. But if the Afrikaners who went there, and this is what you signed up for. That's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
Okay? Again, I don't think she meant a low blow, for example, at black South Africans. It's just that natural American narrow view that doesn't quite see. I don't mean to attack Americans there. I just mean, like, their blinders on, and that's also what you signed up for when you go to America, right?
believe Trump is putting America first by allowing white Afrikaners to be refugees to come here to these United States of America and be provided housing, a cell phone, food, diapers, all that. Meanwhile, we have veterans homeless. Here. We have American taxpayers.
Okay. Sorry, I just have to point something out here. What this guy just said, how they're bringing them in and they give them this full benefit rundown. That's exactly what all of them who have been bitching and complaining about the Mexicans and the Guatemalans and the Cuban, whoever they've been complaining about. That's exactly what they were complaining about that they were giving them. So what? It's exactly what I said earlier. They just want to be rid of brown faces. They don't care about immigrants. They care that the immigrants they're seeing are brown-skinned.
Well, I actually felt another level of relief there. Remember I said the kind of people that would betray South Africa like that and say the worst about her are not the kind I want in our country either. You know? Not because they're white, not because they're Afrikaans, but because They would lie like that as the luckiest people in the world. And what I mean by that is every country in history that has ever had a revolution had a war. South Africa is the one country that operated in forgiveness. And now what comes to mind is the video I saw about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where Desmond Tutu had to beg some white South Africans to get on board with that, not recognizing that they were actually lucky. What would have happened in any other country, it's just not what happened here. And you are used to a certain level of Ubuntu. You are used to, no matter how evil what you say or do or selfish it is, you'll be forgiven. South Africa is a country where, and Scotty has been like, I don't get it, but you can rob someone in South Africa and tell them, I'm so sorry, I'm robbing you. I'm just doing it for my kids. And the South African of all races will say, bro, I understand. I forgive you. Okay. Americans don't forgive like that. I was saying to you earlier, America can get so angry they can bomb a country that just looks like your country as a scapegoat. Yeah, as a scapegoat. Okay. And so I almost want to put that video here too as context to what I'm saying, if I remember.
Struggling. And you want me to believe he's not racist either, because God knows he's deporting undocumented taxpayers, okay? He's deporting babies who are 2 years old and can't fend for themselves, so they got to go with the family. They got deported, okay? Mind you, he's deporting people with visas who went through the legal process, but still getting rid of them. But we're going to invite these white Afrikaners here to America, and we're gonna give you all the things you need. But he's not racist, and he's putting America first. That's the nation that I'm living in right now. That's the nonsense that you guys continue to speak, and the goalpost constantly moves. Y'all have no foundation of morals, of anything. You don't.
So the Trump administration is not allowing anybody from the southern border to be able to seek asylum, but he's allowing South Africans to seek asylum?
South Africa has faced racial persecution. In fact, the government there has vowed to take away their farmland that they own. And so the president has talked significantly about this. As for further details on...
Number one, folks, you see that blonde chick right there? Don't believe a single thing she says. She's a goddamn liar.
Okay, can I give some history of this the white genocide myth? Please understand, South Africa does have a crime crisis. People of all races and classes are subject to that. The reality of white farm murders specifically is that they make up 3% of the murders in this country. Murders tend to happen mostly in urban areas. And in urban areas, we have things called townships. Township, if you don't understand the connotation there, is very similar to inner city in America. What do I mean by that, Scotty? Don't make me say it. When I say a township, what race are we talking about?
Black.
And?
Colored.
But mostly?
Black.
Exactly. What percentage would you say is black? You've been to townships. You've gone and eaten quarters with me in townships as well. You've been to my home, colored township. You've been to black townships. I've taken you there. What percentage would you say is black or colored?
Well, most of the townships I've been to already have pretty much been, I'd say, at least 98% black. And even in your neighborhood, Interdale, which is a colored township, it's still like half black there.
Exactly. And suburban places like ours, or the richer places where we have house sat here in Johannesburg, the wealthiest city in the country, or one of the wealthiest now, what would you say?
I'd say about 30% black.
Yeah, but more or less perfectly integrated, right?
Yeah.
You see every single... The further up you go in class...
You'll see pretty much everybody in like a suburb like that, you know? I mean, one of the places we were house sitting in a Jewish household. Next door to them was some Muslims. Next door to them was some black folk. Next door to them was some Afrikaners, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Then exactly. I think there was a Greek guy on that street too, you know?
Right. But in terms of the places that don't have roads or may not have water, may not have electricity, I've taken you there to my family. Those people are pretty much
black.
Okay.
And can I just also point out that even the colored townships are nicer than the black townships a lot of the times.
Does that mean the colored townships are the lack of luxury? How do you perceive them?
I mean, I perceive them kind of more like a trailer park as opposed to a full-blown ghetto.
So am I accurate to say the standard of living of the average colored person that you've met is that of a poor white in America?
Yeah.
And the average black person in the township is?
Worse than that.
Okay, yeah. That's more of what you picture when you think of Africa stereotypically. Or is that accurate?
I don't understand the question.
So when people's stereotypical view of Africa is this kind of, it's poverty based and all of that kind of thing. Is it closer to that? I want to know your perception.
Oh, yeah. The black townships are definitely closer to that.
Closer, right? Not always quite as bad as what those documentaries show. That's my perception. What's your perception as an American living here on and off for 4 years?
Well, I think those the stereotype we think of as Africa that I see in the black townships, I think the stereotype kind of depicts it a little bit worse off than what I've seen because, frankly, like, the stereotype is that these people have no clothes, no this, no that, they live in a mud hut or something.
I love monetise.
I'm seeing people who have a wardrobe of clothes, but they live in a metal shack that they built themselves.
Okay, so the history of this white genocide myth, in about 2011, this is just from my memory, in about 2011, there were 2 game farmers. Are you aware of what a game farmer is, Scotty? Do I need to explain that to our American audience?
I'm aware of what a game farmer is. Long and short of it's plot of land where somebody owns the land, but they got animals running around.
Yes, but not farm animals. Those are safari animals, such as deer for your sake. So antelope in our thing, right? So 2 game farmers, not even traditional farmers, reneged on their taxes. And the government warned them and warned them and warned them. And then, this is to my memory, okay? The government was like, okay, you're not going to pay your taxes, we're going to take your land. So they were like, oh my gosh, the government is taking land in South Africa, just like Zimbabwe did. Now, they would then muddy the waters because we do have something called land expropriation without compensation. First of all, that is not a racist thing. It is an anti-racist measure. South Africa is a place where people were bulldozed. Our homes were bulldozed. The coloured area of District 6 is famous. There's even a musical about it. The black neighbourhood of Sophiatown is famous for that as well.
It's just right over here.
Don't be telling people where we live, but it's not so far from us. Okay? But basically, those are the 2 most famous ones, but those aren't the only ones. Okay, they were bulldozed, partly because even though, like, for example, Sophiatown was mostly black, it was quite multiracial and everybody felt at home there. Even though District 6 was mostly colored, the same kind of thing happened. Okay, they didn't want racial unity in this country. They couldn't build the most perfect system of racism with that kind of thing going on, so they bulldozed it. Okay. And they created something called, we had the Population Registration Act and the Land Redistribution Act, I think it's called. Okay, I don't remember what the act is called off the top of my head. But basically, you see my hair, how it's curled? This actually comes from a tradition related to all that shit. You used to be classified by a pencil in your hair, which would decide your race. And then based on your race, more or less the kind of jobs you were allowed to get, more or less where you were allowed to live, where you were allowed to school, was based on that. Okay? Basically, what our government should have done way earlier when we got democracy was give land back to those black people. Now, it's not land like my house or your house or a random white person's house. It's actually government land because we have huge bits of government land actually just lying around not being used. Have you witnessed this?
Yes.
And you always mentioned how beautiful you found that, right?
Yeah.
But the system of apartheid meant apartness. People were literally put far apart away from the nice white people in the suburbs, which we now all are able to live in politically, but you have to have a certain level of access to money and a certain level of opportunities to be able to get there. Can you reiterate what I'm saying there in a different way? I don't know if I've articulated it well. So everybody has the right to be in the previously white areas, but that doesn't mean everybody has the money. Okay, there I said it well. How would you say it?
I would just basically say, basically on paper, you're allowed to integrate, but systematically, it just isn't happening right now.
It does happen, but not to the degree that would be fair or whatever in the country. But that's neither here nor there.
That's also like a thing that's a financial thing, which is also kind of like the systematic issue, like you mentioned earlier, the unemployment issue and.
Yeah. So South Africa had to do a lot of work to heal itself as a country. It's done phenomenal work and it's also failed. Okay. Like any pioneer in something new. Okay. So this is what I want to show you. Something called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It is a thing that we did. Instead of going into war, we tried to take the whole country to therapy. That doesn't mean it's perfect. Okay. But this is where I'm getting to the white Afrikaners. That a system of forgiveness was chosen so we could build the nation together. We decided that our love for South Africa was greater than our hatred for each other. And I'm very lucky to be from the generation who was raised in the first unity. I was in grade 1 when our country got democracy. Okay, so it's had a huge impact on my life. And my generation literally had to reparent our parents and teach them about unity. And to their credit, having grown up in the world's most racist country, they worked really hard to overcome that. Good South Africans, bad South Africans, intelligent South Africans, stupid South Africans, everything worked hard to make this country a better place rather than us destroying it any further. But the most painful part of that was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You won't be able to stomach a lot of this, but I do want you to understand what those Afrikaners were given as white South Africans.
Those electric shocks tore my private parts to pieces.
The mechanics of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission are revolutionary and astonishing. Here's how it works. Victims tell their stories of atrocities which were literally unspeakable under the old regime. Then the perpetrators get a chance to own up to their crimes and by doing so, become eligible for amnesty. All they have to do is tell the truth. They don't even have to say they're sorry. No apologies, no remorse, and no justice.
Okay, that is an American perspective on it, but a lot of healing did happen through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but it also wasn't perfect, okay? So you have Nobel Peace Prize winner, an amazing famous Anglican bishop. I actually don't want to show you this evil man over here. I don't think he deserved amnesty. But you have him even begging, we're non-Christians, right?
Very much so.
Right. But I must say, Desmond Tutu was a real Christian. His faith in God gave him the courage to speak truth to power, but also to try and bring this nation together. There's one person I just want to say he did wrong to, and that was Winnie Mandela, but that's another discussion, okay?
Acts are invited to apply for amnesty.
So right now you sense a national catharsis.
It's happening. It's not easy to open wounds. It's very painful. But if you don't want them to fester, you must open them and cleanse them and then pour balm on them.
Archbishop, you are a man of the cloth.
Thank you for reminding me. Yes?
Don't you think that granting a murderer amnesty, which is a form of forgiveness, even if he doesn't repent, don't you think this is carrying Christianity a bit too far?
Christianity has always been a religion that takes risks. We are saying people who have committed horrendous acts, demonic acts, monstrous acts, are not monsters, are not demons. They remain human beings. We don't say that because you are a perpetrator, therefore you remain a perpetrator forever. We say that there is the possibility of changing.
Try that one on Charity Kandila.
Okay, the story is very painful, but you have seen that culture of forgiveness in South Africa, okay? And we've argued about it. All I'm trying to illustrate, because Scotty and I have different views on this, is how forgiving South Africa is, and then how the Afrikaners are used to that, but they don't know what's going to hit them. So what do you say about South Africa's culture of forgiveness? Okay, there was something you were very angry with my mom for. You may speak about that here as well, in terms of how she forgave and our cultural difference there. Take the mic.
You sure you want me to talk about this?
Go for it. It just we're trying to highlight the psychology of South Africans. What you just saw there in Desmond Tutu was a level of greatness of the black people in South Africa who have taught our country about something called Ubuntu, the philosophy of humanity. And our country is founded on forgiveness. But I am open to criticism about that because they're entering into an American space. So you are primarily positioned to give a perspective on that and how you think Americans will act. So just give us a viewpoint.
Well, I will say America as a country is not a very forgiving one. Now, I do commend the South Africans for their forgiveness, but the story in which you have mentioned about your mom that I've always been irritated about. She told me this story about how when your nephews were very young, I think your nephew Nicholas was, 2 years old?
Nicholas was 2, Justin was 4.
Yeah, that they were small children. Somebody broke into their house, held them all at gunpoint, and put a gun to... Was it Nicholas's?
Yes, Nicholas, the 2-year-old.
Put a gun to a 2-year-old's chest. And later on, that same guy was caught by a mob, and they were going to kill him. And your mom said, no, don't do that.
No, my mom didn't tell the people. He was around, and he wouldn't look her in the face. And my mom made sure not to tell the other people because she knew that could be dangerous for him.
I would have let them fry that man.
Right, because you're an American, right? My mom was acting like the consummate South African there. And here is the cultural difference, that those Afrikaners who take that forgiveness for granted are going to have another thing coming. I can't tell them how to feel or anything. I just want to stand up for South Africa here, that I will never regret what was done for me, for my freedom, and for my for the love that I live in now. Because that was a greatness of spirit in our nation. There are many white South Africans that I'm proud of because they are the first ones to admit they don't shy away from the racism, right? And had honest conversations and honest reflections. But the people I'm very proud and grateful to live amongst is the black South Africans and their culture of forgiveness, which has snowballed into something beautiful. And this was my favorite song in 1993 when I was in grade 0, just before we had democracy. But I just want to highlight through the song, try and listen to the words, you may find it cheesy, the spirit of South Africans that these Afrikaners are spitting in the face of. Not all Afrikaners, remember, 1,500, that's 1,500 were given permission or whatever to go, and 49 showed up. Less than 50 even got on the plane so far. Okay, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know what's going to happen because I haven't been paying attention, but I just want to give you insight into my nation here. Peace cannot be so long as humankind is at war.
Peace cannot be so long as humankind is at war. Wars of vengeance will always lead to human destruction and nature. Peace now, not another death later.
And that is the heart of my nation. South Africa, we love you, our beautiful land. Let's show the whole world that we can bring peace in our land. Right? So you can see that heart of peace. Then it goes, Father, we pray day and night for unity. Show us the way, Father, to bridge the gap of hate. That is the core of South Africa. Okay? And unfortunately, so South Africa will err on the side of kindness. Unfortunately, there are those that benefited and were actually, it's almost enabling to some people who remain in their toxicity. That is the heart of South Africa. You know, there's another song called My African Dream, which is all about that from the same period. But if you want to understand the heart of my nation, that's what you need to understand. What I'm trying to highlight here is, whereas South Africa will err on the side of forgiveness and mercy, America will err on the side of kicking your ass. Any comments, questions, or concerns about that?
No contest, Your Honor.
No contest. Okay, so another thing I want to show you is the song that most South Africans don't know. It was very popular in England. It's called I've Never Met a Nice South African. Have you met a nice South African?
I actually have met many a nice South African, and if I can be so blunt as to say, the black South Africans seem to like me better than the white ones do. The white ones always look at me weird, like I'm whiting wrong or something like that. And maybe it's because I don't tuck in my shirt, or maybe it's because I actually wear pants that, you know, give my balls breathing room. But, I mean, hey.
Translation, they're not as accustomed to working class white people. It's just less of a thing here. They tend to be more business class or entrepreneurial class. And so Scotty sometimes becomes a bit of a surprise kind of thing, right? So what was I going to say? This song, I've Never Met a Nice South African. Now remember, South Africa has just been voted the friendliest country in the world. So it's not about us, a nation now. This is about the apartheid days. The people they are speaking about are the kind of people that have just moved to America. Okay, it's not all Afrikaners. There are amazing Afrikaners out there. Some amazing famous ones like Dr. Beyers Naudé, Dr. Chris Barnard, etc., etc., etc. Right? And that needs to be said. But they're actually, the British are actually mocking an Afrikaans accent, or and they're talking about the racist Afrikaners that they met, the ones that still just won't let go of it. Which, hey, they've chosen America. Good luck with that. Like South Africa, America does have this thing where they will stand up for their own, no matter how racist they may be amongst each other. South Africa has that same thing, right? We're South Africans first and foremost. For many of you guys, believe it or not, they're Americans first and foremost. Yeah. But this song is all about how they've met all the most impossible things, but they find it impossible that a South African, aka a racist white South African, could be nice, because the only people they would have met, remember, it was very difficult for South Africans to get passports and to leave. There are those that left in exile or whatever. But the more wealthy, the more able to leave, were also most likely racist South Africans. And this is a song from the 80s mocking those kinds of people. So it doesn't mock South Africa, the rainbow nation, the one that was born in 1994. It mocks South Africa, the apartheid nation, which is dead now. Well, yeah.
I've travelled this whole world of ours from Barnsley to Peru. I've had sunstroke in the Arctic and a swim in Timbuktu. I've seen unicorns in Burma and a Yeti in Nepal. And I've danced with 10-foot pygmies in a Montezuma hall. I've met the King of China and the working Yorkshire miner, but I've never met a nice South African.
No, he's never met a nice South African. And it's not bloody surprising, man, 'cause we're a bunch of arrogant bastards who hate black people.
Did you hear it? I've never met a nice South African, and that's not very surprising, man. So they're making fun of the South African way of speaking, because we're a bunch of arrogant bastards who hate black people. And all the other things that he was saying were like impossible things, like what I've had sunshine in the Arctic.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else he's saying, but all impossible things. And by contrast, he's like, I've never met a nice South African, except for Breitenbach, who happens to be a boer, but also a really famous South African poet. In fact, let me go to that bit.
Never met one either, except for Britain. He's never met a nice South African, and that's not bloody surprising. surprising men, because we've never met one either. Except for Brighton, and he's emigrated to Paris. Yes, he's quite a nice South African, and he's hardly ever killed anyone. And he's not smelly at all, that's why they put him in prison.
Yeah, so Breitenbach, they said he's quite a nice South African, he's hardly ever killed anyone, and he's not smelly, and that's probably why they put him in prison. So they are mocking racist South Africans, okay? And the kind of people that would hold on to this white genocide myth, or at least have been brainwashed, they're the kind of people who support apartheid philosophy, essentially. And so what I'm trying to highlight here is different points of view, okay? And Desmond Tutu earlier in the documentary, if you go and watch it, was reduced to begging. But what I'm trying to say is that kind of Ubuntu, that kind of patience, not going to fly in those United States from sea to shining sea, okay?
You're being very nice about it, honey.
So say it.
All I'm saying is if they try some shit, you've heard the term fuck around and find out. That's exactly what they're going to do. Alright? And, well...
Refugee claim.
I don't know. I don't even know what I should say there. But all I know is that, how those racist Afrikaners... we have to keep saying this because we love Afrikaans people. It's not all of them, but the racist ones, how they tend to talk to people. Ooh, man, they better check that shit real quick. Because, they're going to know, they're going to find out real quick what it's like to have fat lips.
I warned you about my husband. Okay, but we actually had a mass exodus of racist people, and not just Afrikaans, but to Australia right after apartheid, right? So there is that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of the people who've probably taken the Afrikaner visa might not even be Afrikaans. So that's a whole nother kettle of fish, okay? But let's carry on.
And so the president has talked significantly about this. As for further details on refugee claims and asylum claims, I would defer you to the State Department.
So again, no one that crosses that border from the southern border can seek asylum, but yet he could go ahead and make room for South Africans who are just losing land, as opposed to South Americans who are fleeing their countries from gangs, from violence, from crime. He says no to them, but he's saying yes to those South Africans who are losing land. If this administration has not shown you yet that they are racist as fuck, this is an indicator. This is a great...
It is not, it's a muddying of the waters. Nobody is losing land. He has instructed the government to give government land that's just standing there. Or what many of us want is for the hijacked buildings, and we have many of those in the CBD of Joburg, for instance, to be used for South Africans. Okay, the government's also making a lot of money off of the illegal stuff that's happening there.
And can I also just to put things into perspective here? South Africa, as a sheer size scale of its borders, is about, I'd say, between a third and half the size of America.
A third.
Okay, about a third, which is still a pretty big piece of land. Okay.
It's the size of the eastern seaboard in America, but it's got a third of the population of the eastern seaboard in America. There are plenty of land to go by. It's actually quite an underpopulated country.
And most of that population is here in the cities. So, with that being said, the government has plenty of land just sitting around, not being used, and that is what they're giving to people. Mm-hmm. They're not taking away people's homes. They're not actively just walking up to, hey, you a white guy? You live here? Get out. They're not doing that.
You have seen footage of that happening in Palestine. That's not happening here. Okay. except for the poorly acted footage in documentaries like Farmland documentaries.
Was that the one by Lauren Southern? Don't even get me started on that stupid bitch.
Great example. So fuck all the brown people, but he'll bring in South Africans who are white.
That's
not
what
the
I
black
said.
ones, but the white ones here to the United States.
When the white South Africans come into America, will they become African American?
Yep.
What do you guys think? Because typically, no matter where you come from in Africa, when you get to America, whether you're from Ghana, whether you're from Liberia, whether you are from Tunisia, whether you are from
Liberia is in Spain.
Wherever you are from, when you get here, because you are from Africa, you are of African descent, then you become African American once you arrive in America. So is that what's going to happen with them? What y'all think?
Y'all, don't worry about these white South Africans coming here. They about to be the new help. You heard me. They are about to be the new help. They got rid of all the people tending the land. All the immigrants that were tending the land are gone. So what they about to do, replace them with the white South African workers. Y'all gonna be working to feed black folks. As y'all should. Get y'all asses over here and do y'all goddamn job. Y'all think y'all getting away from us. Y'all not. Y'all just gonna be working for us. Come on in the room. See, Trump knew he couldn't get our asses out there. There's no way in hell you gonna get black folks out there to work no kind of land. But he could say, hey, these South Africans are being suppressed. Their land is being taken away from them. They need to come over here and seek retribution. And get y'all asses in the field where the fuck y'all belong. Make sure y'all picking every fucking
The
vegetable.
irony, Scotty, please tell the story of I'm gardening.
Oh, probably the thing that annoyed me the most this is probably the most annoying thing I've ever seen in this country. We went to this little antique shop, and we're sitting there chatting with the owner, lovely old Greek guy, but out back, okay, he had a little smoking area. And we went back there and had a cigarette, and there was this old English lady.
No, she was Afrikaans.
Oh, she was Afrikaans. Oh, that makes this even better. Either way, little old white lady, just sitting in her chair, and in front of her, young black dude about my age, planting some spider plants for her. And she looks at us with this bright little smile. And she says, I'm gardening.
But she was sitting on a chair while he was doing all the digging. She's like, I did all these gardening competitions in England, but you don't have any help here. But here, I'm gardening. And I also want to tell you a story. Not that I want to mock the death of children, but 3 children passed away in New Zealand because a South African who had just emigrated, a white South African who had just emigrated, lost her mind and she murdered her 3 children. And so when I was looking in the comments and people, white South Africans, making excuses for her, they said, oh, shame, she didn't have Woolies. So Woolies is basically our Whole Foods. She was like, oh, shame, she didn't have Whole Foods and her maid. So maybe she was just a bit stressed. And that's why she murdered her 3 girls.
But
that was the rhetoric. That is, by many people, seen as normal, right? And I don't want to just put a bad thing on all white South Africans. It's not like that. But I will say that I have had to have conversations with you. How do I say this in a nuanced way? Where I'm just like, look, they do and they were raised in a country that is a Disneyland for white people. And even if they're kind and sweet and everything, I mean, they've been saying it in their mock videos of Trump, is that there's a level of spoiledness and pamperedness here. And even a sweet, kind, generous person who has grown up with that has a level of what Americans at least will see as entitlement, right? They've grown up in a Disneyland. I'm sorry. Even when it was tough with the load shedding and everything for all of us, even when a lot of us, the rand went low, all of what we experienced during COVID, that load shedding, was no different from what the townships have been experiencing for decades. We got a slice of it in the suburbs. And so a lot of what white South Africans might perceive as difficulty is actually just having the challenges of a normal life. Because remember, Okay, I'm going to tell you straight up, and no, people don't normally speak about this, and even white people around the world aren't going to like this, but from a British and even Dutch colonial point of view, when you came to South Africa, it was because you were seen as what you call the frat club, right? The creme de la creme of white people. They didn't just give South Africa to any white people. They gave them to what they considered were the best white people. They vetted them. And I can say that with authority because my father, my actual dad, out of whose balls I swam, was one of the white people that was paid money to come here to increase the white population. Joke's on you. But he wasn't alone. He was here with his brother and his two sisters and his dad. Okay, so this is a legacy. It's a legacy of privilege. Okay, so that is one of the layers of the onion.
And I will say, like, my white friends here in South Africa, like, we'll just be sitting around, having a beer, having a chat, and I'll tell them a story about me growing up, and I'm sitting here thinking this is completely normal, because it is for me, and they just look at me like, huh? You went through that?
Yeah, and you've actually often been mistaken for a colored person just because of how you walk and talk, right? You've actually been told, you're the whitest looking colored person I know. People see him and they speak Afrikaans to him just because the way that he carries himself is not even, people don't even see that as a white person.
Yeah, I mean, you look at me, my skin is the color of paper, but that they don't register that.
So can you give us an American parallel of the class group that white folk in South Africa typically live in? Not that we don't know poor white folk, right? But they're definitely the exception, not the rule. If you were to give us an American way of, just as a parallel, what would you say?
Okay, in comparison, I would say your average white South African lives something close to a South Beach Jewish person. Okay. So I won't go and say rich, because, I mean, they're not all rich. They're not all, like, completely wealthy over here. But I will say, like, they all live very comfortably, nice neighborhood, nice house. Financially, even if they're not wealthy, they're comfortable. They don't got to worry about much. Yeah, I think pretty much a lot of what their main concerns are is, oh shit, I forgot to pay. It's not that they can't, they forgot.
Right. I mean, I was in a movie about poor white South Africans. It's not that they don't exist, and I don't want to diminish that, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule, right? There aren't like hundreds of trailer parks lying around. Like you said, the trailer park life tends to be the colored class, and then the black class tends. And you said that those areas can be at least half black, right? The colored areas. Oh, yeah. And then the black, like the black townships tends to be a level of poverty that's even further than what the average American is accustomed to.
Oh, yeah.
Or large places, large swaths of land that are a lot like Skid Row.
Very much so. Actually, shit.
Townships are pretty much like Skid Row, right? Yeah. That's like, I've shown pictures before with a video that you were in, where I showed pictures of Skid Row and I showed pictures of downtown Johannesburg. You can't even tell the difference. You can't.
And don't miss out on anything. Y'all not getting away from black folks. Y'all gonna be around us a lot more. And unlike the ones in South Africa, we don't give a fuck. You're not gonna be able to call us colored. You're gonna get your dome rocked. So be careful. Tread lightly. And
okay, I just gotta make a comment. This is to black Americans. Please understand that here in South Africa, colored is an actual racial classification, and it's not just a racial word that gets thrown around like that, okay? It's not that people are called colored here as a derogatory term. It is their actual racial classification. It is a basically,
that's Puerto Ricans, that's what you call us.
Yes, they're Dutch Puerto Ricans is basically what they are, because what are Puerto Ricans? They are very mixed race. You can have 3 kids, same 2 parents, one looks super white, one looks super black, and one look very much in between, okay? That is just the reality. Colored people are generationally mixed race people. It's not just, oh, my mom's white, my dad's black, or vice versa. No, it's my mom's mixed, my dad's mixed, my grandparents are mixed, great grandparents. Yeah, so you basically you got to go back a couple hundred years before you hit somebody that's just white or just black or just Indian or whatever else their family is mixed with.
And we still refer to our ancestors, whether they're black or whatever they were, as colored because they're our ancestors. It's a different racial classification. Our black folk, it's just an umbrella term for actual nations. People who might be of Xhosa descent, Zulu descent, Setswana, Sesotho. Those are actually languages. Yeah, Venda, Mutsonga, and Ndebele. So it's nations, and not everybody can just walk around claiming to be black because did you even grow up in that culture? Do you even speak those languages? Do you even have to pay that kind of black tax? It's seen as arrogant and pretentious if you just claim blackness when you don't even grasp what blackness means. It runs very deep here. It's not just a color and a subculture. It's ancient nations whom I've spoken about a lot before, and very rich cultures, basically. But that's just I can't even do them justice just by saying it like that, right? It's no different from Germans or Scots or whatever. Yeah, we call them black when we speak about them as a group. And, for example, I'm classified as black by the police because color does fall under black, but so does Indian, right? But if someone were to identify me and you saw me doing crime and you said that's a black girl, you could actually get a real black girl arrested. My identification or whatever is that I'm a colored girl. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And also, like I said,
and black people get really offended when, on behalf of colored people, when anybody calls us anything else, because they take it more personally than we do. They're very protective over us, and we can be very protective over them, depending.
And honestly, we as Americans, this is what I was talking about earlier with us living in our own fucking bubble. We need to get our heads out of our asses and realize that our social rules don't actually apply to everywhere else. We have this thing where we just assume everybody's going to follow our rule. No, different places have different rules.
You also assume that compared to South Africans, you're the protagonist in racial stuff. I promise you that a lot of your racial stuff, even the worst, would be a vacation for us, okay, historically. And so with the whole colored thing, the reason it's not offensive in South Africa, it's offensive in every other English-speaking country, is because the terms that we were called were things like karakas, which means mixed race dogs, things like bastard, which means bastard. For us, colored has the connotation of colorful. Okay, we've been called way worse things, and there are way worse slurs as well for black folk, a word that I won't even say here because literally if I said it, well, first of all, I think it's immoral to say, and it makes my skin crawl. Even a white South African would, their skin would crawl to even hear it said in their house. But yeah, they'd kick you straight out. They have less tolerance for it than anybody else. But if I were to say it, I could literally get 3 years in prison just for saying it, because it means filthy and savage, right? It's not just a word that has gotten a connotation. It is an evil word to its core. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. You'd have to learn more about that, okay?
The only thing I have left to say on this is Americans, just get your fucking heads out of your ass about the colored thing. If you're going to bother sticking your nose into the South African realm of things, then you need to do so with an open mind and with your head not in your ass.
Remember, we don't see you as African. We see you as colonizers of an apartheid. Welcome to America.
For anyone who has any problems with refugees, I do not want to hear you talk about the South African white refugees and be like, they're coming here legally, it's fine, because their own government even says that they are not vetted. While Donald Trump says that they are completely vetted, that's 100% untrue according to the South African government. They also said that the people that claim that they are being genocided are actually pro-apartheid, and that's why they're moving to the United States. And they're saying straight up that it is a move for political advantage. The South African government also came out and said that it's really ironic that Trump is allowing the most economically privileged people from around the world to enter the United States while denying the most vulnerable people who are trying to immigrate to the United States. Like, let's be clear here. These people are becoming refugees to the United States specifically because they are upset that people are upset in South Africa, that they are pro-apartheid. And yet Donald Trump will not accept any refugees that are actually coming here for detrimental circumstances.
That was the most accurate that we've seen in this video. You're talking about the kind of people who in Africa get offended that there are black people on beaches because they remember a time when there were signs saying black people can't go to that beach. So they're literally offended now that black people are becoming more economically stable in South Africa, that they can actually afford a beach. But like a lot of them aren't so economically stable they could drive there. So we do something called stokvel, which is basically where we all pool our money together. In the color community, we call it guzat. We'll pool our money together, so everybody together might go on a bus or whatever, and so we'll come in big bus loads to the most famous beaches. We wouldn't even know about the less famous beaches, right? That is the typical way of thinking of someone who comes from an underprivileged background coming to a more privileged background. The white folk that you're talking about are the kind of people that would not hesitate to use the word monkeys. People have been arrested for saying this kind of thing. They're literally upset that Africans are on African beaches. Literally upset that someone who comes with a natural tan is tanning, I guess, you know?
And I've said this before. I've said it many times. I'll probably say it a couple more times in my lifetime. If they didn't like black people, they shouldn't have came to Africa, number one. And number two,
While you're blanking, what's your insight of race and racism in South Africa versus the States?
Well, I will say racism here, it's put it this way, you got to go looking for it, but when you find it, you find it. And in America, you don't got to go looking for it, but at the same time, I really don't know what to say there.
You said in the past you don't have to wonder about South African racism.
Oh yeah,
right?
you really don't. You really don't. A South African racist will tell you to your face, "Hey, I don't fucking like you."
Right, but you also said that generally, I've heard you say in conversations to others that generally people have done a lot of work. Well, you didn't say they have done a lot of work. You just said that you find it as a very non-racist country. But,
oh yeah.
But basically, you find our non-racism and our racism sincere. You don't fault us in our sincerity is how I interpret what you
Yes, basically. Whereas in America, people who are super racist will sit there and try to play the nice person. You know, like, "Oh, aren't you sweet? Get me the hell away from this guy now." You know?
Would you say it's more passive-aggressive that side?
Yes.
Would you say it's more pervasive there or here?
There. Really.
Okay, but more raw here. Where you find it's more raw.
Yeah.
And honestly, our racists can be crass. So fewer, I think, in your estimation.
Yeah.
Mine too. But where they exist, straight up crass.
Exactly.
Dances. Again, it's just racism. That's all it is.
I just wanted to point out another thing. I had to come and live in Africa, in South Africa, to experience white privilege. So there's that.
To all of the South African Afrikaans refugees that are coming to America soon, I just want to let you know, as someone whose wife is Afrikaans, who's been to South Africa multiple times, you're going to have a bad time. There's no white genocide happening in South Africa. You have crime that's happening as a result of racism-fueled generational economic inequality, the same thing that's happening in America. We're just a couple decades ahead of you on the unchecked capitalism timeline. But I have good news for you. You don't have to worry about the cheap exploited labor rising up again.
What's that?
That part is very true on that. I've noticed, like, basically, whenever something happens in America, just give it a little bit of time. It'll start happening here too.
Right, so what? We copy your homework?
You look at the homework and you kind of do the same thing, but you put your own spin on it.
Okay, so we put our own South African flavor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen to a little bit of what Just Cheesy says, and I think we can wrap up.
Against you anymore, because now that you're in America, you'll get to be the cheap exploited labor. If you were middle class or upper middle class in South Africa and you come to America, you're poor now. Like, really poor. You're not going to have maids and gardeners and personal servants that you can pay $15 a day for. Now you get to be the cheap labor. But by all means, please come to America and experience the American capitalism that Elon Musk's been raving about to you. You'll probably love it. You know, what do I...
That is true. Like a lot of developing countries, if you are middle class, even working class in South Africa, you get to have a domestic worker and a gardener. And that's not just based on race. Anybody who makes it to a certain level in South Africa feels the responsibility to give jobs to others, whatever they can afford. So sometimes it's like a whole street of people who might not be that rich. Maybe I'll have a domestic worker on Monday, you'll have a domestic worker on Tuesday, he'll have it on have this domestic worker on Thursday, so that we just do it to create jobs. But you've now heard from 2 husbands of South African women saying the level of living you have in South Africa is higher. Okay. And both of these men are white. Okay, I'm just trying to point that out. He has an Afrikaans wife. This one has a colored wife. And so don't take it from me. Don't take it from me. Take it from the Americans who've lived both ways. Scotty, as a working class American who had to work construction, and then leave the construction job to go work until 3 o'clock in the morning, to work at a liquor store, and then occasionally donate blood just so that you can make the money to come here. What is your experience as a poor American and the minute you land in South Africa? Because he's talking about rich versus poor.
Oh, man, I got it made here compared to what I had it in the States.
You've got it made? Because we don't have a domestic worker, right? You said you got it made, right?
Well, we might not have a domestic worker, but I love it. I mean, I live in a way nicer neighborhood here. I can afford to feed us. The money I make in the States and then I come here with, it won't last 2 weeks in America. It won't. I might be able to stretch it into a 3rd week, but that's.
So your 3 weeks of money racks up. How long can you stretch it out here? The same 3 weeks of money that you spend in America.
How long have I been here since I landed? Let's see here. I got back in,
I think February.
Yeah, February. So we're going on almost 4 months now.
So basically, your dollars of 3 weeks in America are stretching to 4 months.
Yes.
In South Africa, and that's typical, right? You've had to do that trip multiple times.
Yes, and I also, like I said, my quality of life is just... Oh, can I just also brag for a second? We can afford eggs! Yes, we can afford eggs!
Yep, and Scotty said we live in a nice neighborhood. The majority of people think of our neighborhood as shady. Actually, there are many Joburgers who wouldn't come here. They wouldn't come this far south.
Pussies.
I know. There's probably very little chance that you'll end up going back to South Africa in a year or two after realizing how overpriced and fucked up America is. I wouldn't even worry about that as a possibility. And if you think I'm being mean to these people because I think they're a bunch of racist, bigoted colonizers who wish they could go back to apartheid South Africa, it's just because I do think that. But to them, I say, welcome to the American dream. Please let me know when you've woken up from it.
Man, so he just flew them South Africans in and y'all bitch ass ain't gonna do a motherfucking thing about it. Yeah, he finna get their ass all this free ass money. He finna get their ass free healthcare, free phones. He finna probably drop 100,000, 30,000 in them folks' account and y'all ain't finna do nothing. He kicking all the brown folks out. He flying all these motherfucking white South Africans in and y'all bitches don't sit up there and don't do nothing. Don't nobody say nothing. Ain't nobody posting shit about this motherfucker. He killing us in the streets and he bringing these folks in and in y'all face. Y'all want to keep screaming all this Donald Trump pussy ass shit talking about, man, about racism. Man, it's about racism, nigga. Nobody gives a fuck about y'all, man. So we gonna pick a side too. Fuck y'all. You know what I'm saying? And to you motherfucking South Africans who think you finna come to America and think it's finna be cool for you, get my motherfucking face, man. You think we gonna let y'all live like... The fuck out of here, stupid.
I can hear from that man's accent. He's a Florida man just like I am. And amen, brother. Amen. Go Gators.
Yeah, I'm also going to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm hating on America. I loved being there. I really did. And Americans really inspire me with their hard work and their... there's a lot of wonderful things about that country. Their excellence. I always call it their culture of excellence. My favorite thing about America is get her done. It's a country that's not afraid to get her hands dirty. It's a country of diligence, right? But I'm also going to be honest about her problems. One of those problems is your weather. I'm sorry. When you're used to South Africa's weather, Lord have mercy, ain't no Wisconsin winter in December. I've been there. And ain't no Texas in flippin' summer at, 101 degrees Fahrenheit in July. That's cold? That's cold for you in Florida? Okay. I've never been to Florida summer. South Africa is a country we don't have natural disasters. We literally don't have natural disasters. And we're a very temperate place. And also, sorry, but this is not just an indictment in America. The quality of food in South Africa, I'm not talking about even on cooking. I just mean when you eat a tomato or an apple, the quality of food, miles ahead of other places. I don't say that as a South African, but rather as a world traveler who ended up traveling the world because I had internalized narratives of the inferiority of South Africa, which is a blatant lie.
I gotta say to the Afrikaners, they're gonna be settling in North Carolina. Enjoy that heat and enjoy the hurricanes, because quite frankly, coming from Florida, y'all are gonna have it a little bit easier than us there. But the Carolinas are also, I mean, if you're anywhere near Myrtle Beach, you're gonna end up getting a hurricane or two. And because these Afrikaners are accustomed to such nice weather, I just want to see their reactions to the hurricanes.
I will give them this. Afrikaners of all kinds have a lot of resilience. They're a very resilient group of people. So I don't want to also underestimate the capacity. Yes, they can swim.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, they might be able to survive the hurricanes then.
Okay, I will say that. They might just be stubborn enough to try and prove a point to you. Okay, so we shall see. We'll see. Okay.
Oh, in Idaho with the Hurricane Alley. Oh, I mean not Hurricane Alley, the Tornado Alley. I'm sure what they think of as a twister is just a big joint, but they're gonna find out what a twister is.
The devil works hard, but Elon must work harder. I got on TikTok yesterday, and I saw a bunch of videos of people saying how we are supposed to receive a bunch of new Afrikaans. I hope I'm saying it right. But a bunch of white people who are in Africa are coming in as refugees. So I was like, hold on. Let me open the comment section and see what's happening. I opened the comment sections. A bunch of white Africans, as well as South Africans, they are in the comments saying, what are y'all talking about, refugees? These people are not refugees. They are not experiencing any racism in South Africa. Because that's what the story is. That's what the Trump administration is saying, is that these people that are coming to America, they're flying in tonight. They're coming in tomorrow. They're saying that they are fleeing South Africa because they are experiencing racism from the black Africans there. When I tell you 2025 is...
But guys, this has been going on for years. This whole thing has been going on for years. The reality is, and I've even experienced it, right? I'm going to tell you a story about my church that I went to in 2010, 2012. You know, they were telling us, oh, we're getting this money from America for our church. Now, our view of America then was what we see in Hollywood. So I was like, oh, nice, generous Americans. I was picturing them all being rich and sending us money. Only to find out when they heard what's happening down here, they were like, what the F? Because now that I understand the world better, I'm like, there's probably some person who has Walmart food stamps who, out of the goodness of their heart for Jesus, heard that they were sending money to Africa, and that's what they were picturing. You know, I kind of get what their picture is. Guys, the people were in Auckland Park, okay? Just to give you an idea, my pastor lived in a house on the hill. It had 5 bedrooms, and he had rooms underneath that he was renting out, okay? His home is not far from the Johannesburg Country Club, okay? He's not sitting there in abject poverty. What you guys were paying for was for our church to be at after the top film school in the country, and you're paying for our cappuccinos. And everybody in our church, most of them were accountants. I'm an actress, or I was a professional actress then, and that's basically, we're pretty much middle class people. And it is true that he sent pictures of people in our church. Most of them were black, but they were black middle class people.
And to put that into perspective, if you're from my neck of the woods, that's like somebody from either Lutz or Sulphur Springs trying to donate to somebody living in West Palm Beach or New Tampa.
That's like somebody from
Avila.
from like Detroit or something trying to donate to somebody living in Brooklyn, New York.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Or somebody from Compton trying to donate to somebody in Beverly Hills.
It's 2025ing because I don't have any other words. So we're about to have a bunch of Elon Musk coming in here. But I do want them to know that this ain't no South Africa. So y'all gonna be learning a whole lot of new things.
Shame on the United States. Shame. Shame on Donald Trump and his whole administration. So check this out, y'all. White South Africans granted refugee status by the Trump administration. Now let that sink in. Look at these people. These people are the descendants of the colonizers and the apartheid rulers in South Africa. And
they're doing this at a time. Remember I told you earlier we had a mass exodus during 1994, 95, 96, especially to Australia and New Zealand. It became a trope in South Africa. And then we did have a crime crisis during our democracy with our black-led government. We had the kind of crime crisis that any new democracy has, and it was devastating to live through. And a lot of us were disillusioned about South Africa. So many people who left South Africa left because of that, not because they're racist, right? But even those people have started fleeing. We've had a mass return. We called it the brain drain when a lot of people left, right? We've had a mass return in the last year or two. Because South Africans, I'm sorry, on some level, we're so pampered. To some degree, it depends. There are 10 different South Africans, 10 different class groups. But we can be so pampered that even a pretty nice first world country can feel crap.
Gas pump, baby. Gas pump.
The government over there is using their constitution to help give land back to the native.
Look at the fat guy in the back. You think he's experienced? That motherfucker's way too well fed.
Okay.
Africans.
Okay, so they're saying native Africans. I just want to point something out. No South African is going to tell you that they're offended by that, but the word native in South Africa has the same connotation as the word colored might in America. It was a derogatory term for South Africans, especially when I was a kid. On the news, people used to say things like, and today in the news, 5 people and 15 natives have died in a car accident. That literally meant 5 white people and 15 black people, or whatever the case is. It has you don't actually use that N-word here. So I'm just pointing that out, okay? But not hating on you. I'm just saying, please take a cue and please learn, like, we know about context. Okay, do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Buying land from South Africans who own 70% of all the land, and you go, how did they do that? They stole it. Then you got Elon Musk and Donald Trump talking about there's a genocide happening. There's no genocide. The only genocides that are happening right now are in Gaza, the Congo, South Sudan. Those are really genocides, and those are really refugees. Then you got Trump, remember, talking about
Congo. We've said it on the channel before. Elon Musk is making money from what's happening in Congo.
They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs when he's referring to Haitians. That's not happening either, and it wasn't happening. They have real status to be here to work. But these guys, these Afrikaners, these poor farmers, they just, for whatever reason, can't make money in South Africa. They haven't been on their job. You notice there ain't no millionaires and billionaires Afrikaners coming to the United States as refugees. It's the poors. They got money for wars but can't feed the poor. And I'm talking to you, white Americans, especially the ones who are in the lower class of poor. This really affects you. These Afrikaners are about to come over here, get free housing, free medical, they're going to get jobs, they're going to get education, and meanwhile, a lot of you are going to continue to live in rural areas, in your trailers, in your apartments, and you're going to lose your jobs because of Doge.
And that's exactly what y'all were bitching about them doing for the Hispanics, which they actually weren't doing, but hey, no, Donnie said it, so it's gotta be true. Fuck off.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that American lady when the South Africans had a braai. I do want to try and find it. It's an American Karen. Just also in terms of what may happen if an American did it on our soil and was forgiven by those white South Africans that she did it to. There it is. Okay, this one really boils my blood. But this is the kind of thing that a lot of Afrikaners may face. And you pointed out that you thought that she was probably doing it because they were speaking Afrikaans, right? You found it very racist. I missed that connotation or whatever because I'm not used to passive racism, passive aggressive racism. I'm used to raw racism as a South African. Don't take my word for it. Take Trevor Noah's word for it.
Look, all I'm gonna say is, friggin', if you want to know if a white American is racist or not, just speak another language around them and see how quickly their blood gets boiled.
If you want to know if a South African is racist, just ask them. They'll tell you. We've got chutzpah, I suppose. Okay, so I'm just going to try and get that video going. It does boil my blood quite a lot. But these are white Afrikaans speaking South Africans doing a braai. That is a barbecue. It's a tradition. And this is what they were faced with in their own country.
I don't care. Go to McDonald's. I have been up at 3 a.m. We have been putting out. Right, we all were. What is that? We were here again putting out the violence. I am sorry. What is that?
Calm down. You don't storm up here.
No, excuse me. I've been up at 3, sir. I am your.
I know you, we met. I've got it under control.
I don't care. This stuff, win this win. Are you guys nuts?
No, we're not. We're 5 6 in the standby.
I don't care. That's an insult. We were up at 3 in the morning.
As well.
I don't care.
You've got no right to
I will be happy. Will you?
Okay, would you say that kind of Karenishness is uncommon in America?
No.
Would you say the calm reaction of the South Africans, even when faced with conflict, is uncommon?
Also, no.
Right, we start with calmness, right? Yeah. Once a South African is pissed off, you have to have been doing it for years to them. You've seen me pissed off on this channel. That comes from years and years and years. You literally have to abuse me for years before I lose my shit, usually.
And honestly, like, look, again, I'm from Florida. I'm used to redneck barbecues, bonfires, and cookouts, which honestly is just like a braai. The only real difference is some of the menu items. That you know what I mean? Even those are pretty much the same half the time. I mean, just there's no burgers or hot dogs. That's about it. Okay? This woman is really, she's just being a grade A bitch. Okay? And that's just the honest truth. Like, there's no reason for her to be going off like that.
So what is the likelihood that sooner or later an Afrikaner in Idaho, Ohio, and North Carolina may face that? Just for speaking Afrikaans?
I give them about 2 days.
Really? Wow. I thought a few years, but okay.
These guys are here to get all the resources. America, that's a shame, y'all. That is a shame.
You know, I know that this is going to be, you know, any adjustment in life, any change takes a while to get used to. but I want you all to know that you are really welcome here and that we respect.
They have had 30 years to get used to democracy. They don't want it. They want their white Disneyland. And the shadow of it actually still exists in the country they just left.
What you have had to deal with these last few years, we respect the long tradition of your...
What they've had to deal with is a little bit of competition from black people. But still not that, because English and Afrikaans being similar languages, a lot of, somebody argued on my channel with me when they said Afrikaans is not dominant in Joburg. I'm sorry, we in the same town, for example, in Florida, here in Florida, Johannesburg, we have Florida primary school and we have Florida Laerskool. So you can live in even Johannesburg having your whole education in Afrikaans, a thing that you cannot pull off in Zulu, which is the most spoken language in this country. Have you ever seen a Xhosa primary school or a Sesotho primary school in Joburg? Have you seen Afrikaans ones?
Yeah.
Linden, I've taken you there many times. Yeah. Almost a fully Afrikaans town in Johannesburg, right? Again, the most wealthy city. But Pretoria, totally Afrikaans, right? Also very Siswahili, to be honest. But the point that I'm trying to make is they've had, 31 years to get used to democracy and fighting on equal footing with each other. They're not used to not having advantage, and they perceive a lack of advantage as oppression.
Can I just also point out that there is a whites-only town here in South Africa that they can just go and live there?
Literally, there is. And you know why it is? They'll say it's because of white genocide. It's actually because the black government agreed to sell them that land. It's a lovely white Disneyland. You can even go there as a non-white person and visit, but the only way that you can live there is if you buy into something called Afrikaaner nationalism. Because according to our constitution, they can't actually say no whites not allowed. So you have to say that you embrace only Afrikaner culture, and most people, English-speaking South Africans who are white or any other race, colored people, we won't be down with that. And even most white South Africans, even most Boere, as in Afrikaner South Africans, aren't down with that. Okay, the kind of racists we're talking about is real, raw racists who created the most perfect system of racism and are mad that it's not going on.
Basically, if they could, they would be in the Klan, but they would have to learn English.
For people and what you have accomplished over the years. And
you say the Klan, and I just want to point out that when these people, AfriForum, long before this became a trend for the general world, I watched this video of people from places like the Klan actually jizz their pants when they met those kinds of white Afrikaners. I don't know if you guys know, but here in South Africa we have the white people's prophet, and his name was Nicholas van Rensburg die Siener. So if you're curious about white supremacy, it's actually a very uncomfortable watch, but you could look into Nicholas van Rensburg. I have read his prophecies in English and Afrikaans. I do not interpret them the same way that the white Afrikaners do, and that could be another video. I've always wanted to do a video like that, where I actually read the Afrikaans for you and translate it, and you tell me what the English translation says. I find them completely inconsistent. But basically, the Siener said that there's going to be a war in South Africa, apartheid's going to come back, and they're going to resettle somewhere just north of South Africa, like Botswana or Namibia. Okay. Or that's how they interpret what he said. But they literally believe in the white man's prophet.
That you will be successful. As you know, a lot of you think are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country, where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will bloom and we will benefit alongside you. Thank you very much for coming here.
Yeah. I'd like to add, again, on behalf of President Trump, Secretary No, so grateful that you guys are here. Everybody within DHS, we've been so excited to be able to get you guys here to process, to vet, everything, so you guys get a really warm start. After all I was tracking your flight, 12 hours, that you were last night. I'm like, oh my God. So thank you for just the patience of being able to get here.
He was not tracking their flight. The shortest flight is 16 hours. But anyway, lion-ass liar from Lighttown. But anyway, okay, you wanted to say something and I've gone blank.
12 hours, that's it. I mean, hell. The shortest flight I've taken out of this, I can't get a straight flight to America. I mean, I could, but I'd have to land somewhere where I'm not planning on going. And that's 15 to 18 hours. And frankly,
The shortest flight is 16 hours between Cape Town and Florida.
Yeah, well.
With United.
Well, I refuse to take United because they're...
We promised we wouldn't tell. Remember? That was the deal. We wouldn't tell.
I'll make my own video one day. But anyway, yeah, see here, normally when I'm flying back and forth, I gotta stop somewhere. I normally stop in either Germany, Switzerland, or Qatar. Because those are, well, you can smoke in those airports, so...
Look, at the end of the day, 1,500 Afrikaners were invited. Only 49 showed up. Okay, that's out of 1,500, only 49 showed up. So not even a third of 10%. It's about 3%, isn't it? Is my maths off there? I don't know. I'm getting tired.
I think that's like maybe 1%. I mean,
so 100.
Not even 50 people out of 1,500. Yeah,
So as usual, this is not an indictment on all white South Africans or all Afrikaans South Africans. As you can see, that's the result. The numbers speak for themselves. I will say this: I do believe in their resilience. They may just thrive just to show the rest of us the finger. Okay, that is one of their characteristics. To give the devil his due. Okay. But
they'll probably all end up in Idaho if that's the case. They'll get so sick of North Carolina and Ohio because there's brown folks there, and a lot of them they're gonna have a lot higher status than them. So they're gonna get sick of that and go to Idaho where there ain't no brown people.
Okay, well, this has been an interesting exercise. The truth is, I wish them the best. I'm personally relieved to have less racist South Africans, even if it's just 50 less in our country. It's relieving to me at the moment. I'm not going to fight for them. I don't know why everybody's fighting to keep them. We're cool without you. By the way, the people have started calling them the voetsakkers, which is a joke. Voetsak is like, it means F off in South Africa, but it's a joke about something called the voortrekkers, or sometimes it's called them the great sek. Okay, so I find that hilarious. You wanted to say any more?
I just wanted to comment on the thing that the guy said when we first started this whole thing. The guy with the long hair was like, I don't want to learn Dutch to order a taco. If I see a Afrikaner working a taco stand, you shut that taco stand down. Shut it down. No. Just no. That's all.
Okay, nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's not pretty. Thank you to Just Chizzy as usual. Always has the best footage. I've missed you guys a lot. I don't know when I'll see you again. I'm still trying to get back into the flow of things. Okay, but ciao for now.